Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Roberta's House. My name is Janaea Stanley, and I am the clinical supervisor. Real Talk is a series of live and recorded conversations about various aspects of grief. For the month of October, we've been talking about disenfranchised. And today, we welcome Ms. Pia May from the House of Ruth, and we're going to be talking about domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Thank you so much, Pia, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Can you tell us a little bit about House of Ruth and the work that you all do?
Sure. The House of Ruth Maryland is a comprehensive intimate partner violence agency. We work with victims of intimate partner violence. We work with their children. And we also have an abuse intervention program. We have a 24-hour hotline that people are welcome to call for anything, for support, for information, for referral to our different services. And we do have a shelter. That's one small part of our program. And we have a community transitional housing program. And we have counseling offices in the Baltimore City area, as well as Prince George's County, Montgomery County. And so we work with people of all ages and all genders.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So you mentioned intimate partner violence. So I know most people are familiar with the term domestic violence. So tell me what the difference is between the two.
Sure. So domestic violence has been a term that's been around for a very long time. And when people think about domestic violence, I think a lot of times people think about violence in a relationship, violence that happens in the home. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't quite get to the nuance of intimate partner violence. So say it is a boyfriend or girlfriend or, a spouse, those people know you intimately and they know ways to be able to control you, to be able to terrify you, and to hurt you in a way that somebody who just happens to be living in your house might not. Mm-hmm. Domestic violence also, people sometimes think that's, an adult child and a parent, maybe it's violence between them, maybe it's violence between siblings. So what we are really focused on is that intimate partner relationship. Mm-hmm. That being said, if you say domestic violence, that's fine. It's not wrong. It's just that the intimate partner violence is more sort of a newer term, sort of hones in a little bit more specifically on what we're doing.
Got it. So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So tell us a little bit about the things that you guys have been doing this month.
Oh, well, this year has been a little different than other years. Yes. We used to go out and do a lot of meeting with companies and organizations. This year, we're doing some things like this, where we're getting meeting with a different audience in a different way. We just recently had a Fill the House donation drive for victims of intimate partner violence. We have, we've got people sort of out doing different things in the community any way we can get the word out, because it's so important to continue to get our message out. I know we've been talking about this for many years, but still 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime. And the number's higher for the transgender population. It's about 1 in 2. And to your point about disenfranchised grief, their stigmatized status in society is, puts them in more danger of that disenfranchised grief.
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit or give some examples of the types of situations that people can find themselves in that they might not necessarily recognize that it's toxic or harmful. So just kind of talk a little bit about what those different scenarios might look like.
Sure. You know, a lot of times when people think domestic violence or intimate partner violence, you know, they have this vision in their head that it is a woman with a black eye or, you know, physical injuries. And while that absolutely happens and is very dangerous, there's also, you know, economic abuse. Someone may be, you know, having to give over their paycheck. Maybe somebody not being allowed to work. Maybe somebody not being allowed to work with certain people. So there's also just the psychological and emotional abuse, you know, name calling, putting someone down constantly, interfering with their parenting of their children the way they want to be able to parent, you know, really reducing their self-esteem and their sense of self-efficacy. There's also reproductive coercion, you know, making all the an abuser making all the decisions about when to have children, if to have children, whether you are able to keep the children, you know, that you do have. You know, there's using children as a way to control the other person. You know, there's threats, there's a lot of things that you can't see. And so just because you don't see those physical manifestations of violence doesn't mean it's a healthy relationship. And, you know, and there's all different, there's a wide span, you know, everywhere up, you know, from, you know, just that name calling and sort of wearing somebody down all the way, you know, up through murder. So, you know, people fall somewhere on that spectrum and everybody needs support. So that's why our hotline is so important, because you can be anybody and call. You can be a professional and call for, you know, for some guidance. You could be a family member, a friend looking for guidance. We even have a group for family and friends. It's a new online group that we're running because it is so important for other folks to get involved and to sort of provide that support to their family and friends.
What's the hotline number? And I'll make sure that when we post the video, we'll have a picture of it, but just if you want to provide it to the audience now.
Sure, it's 410-889-RUTH.
Awesome, 410-889-RUTH.
Ruth.
And we were joking earlier, a lot of times, well, I found that people confuse Roberta's house with the House of Ruth. Sometimes our colors are similar and, you know, the names are similar. So we just want to make the distinction that House of Ruth works with people who are experiencing domestic violence, and Roberta's house are working with those who are grieving over a death. So I just want to make that distinction. But we're glad to be able to partner with you. We were just over there a few months before the pandemic hit and just talking a little bit about our program. So I'm glad to be able to partner with you all and, you know, work together.
Yeah, well, and, you know, and I know just because of my role as, you know, in the clinical services department, you know, our clients are not just dealing with intimate partner violence, right? They, you know, there are a host of issues that they're dealing with, just like anybody else. And grief is universal. And so we have made many referrals, you know, to your agency. And, you know, we really work on acknowledging the grief of our clients that stem from the intimate partner violence. You know, there are a lot of losses. There's loss of community, there may be loss of your home, maybe loss of your sense of independence, you know, loss of family and friends who don't know what to do, and so they pull away. So it's just, you know, it's one of the things that our therapists can really do is, you know, help, you know, bring awareness of that to folks to let them know that this is not their fault, and that, you know, and to recognize all the losses along the way that they've been suffering and validating those.
Speaking of that, and with the pandemic, I know I've heard things about the number of calls that you guys have received has dramatically increased because, you know, people are now unable to leave. They're unable to go to work now.
Mhm.
They have been able to get away from their partner for that time at work, but now they're not able to do that. So tell us a little bit about how the work has changed now through the pandemic.
Mhm. Um, yeah, well, and I'll speak specifically again about, the clinical department. We have about a dozen therapists who were all well engaged, seeing clients, and they were coming in for group, and they were coming in for, individual and family counseling. And then in March, when we also got shut down in terms of not going into the office anymore, we had to sort of scramble really quickly to acquire a telehealth platform and the things we needed to go along with that, and to get our staff, up and running. And I have to say they did an incredible job, because they got that turned around really quickly. And partly it was because they didn't want to leave their clients hanging. They knew that if we were struggling just trying to, figure out how to make things work, that, we were really worried about the clients that we had, as well as people who then may not be able to find their way to us in ways that they used to. So, one of the nice side benefits that we didn't anticipate was that it's really taken away some of the barriers for people to getting counseling. Some of our folks were taking, a couple buses across town to get to us for a 1-hour appointment and then back home, and had to figure out how to squeeze that in. Competing family schedules, children in school, and, or lack of childcare, lack of money for transportation. So this has really sort of helped with that. Now, it's not for everyone, and we will certainly not always do 100% telehealth, but I think it's not going away.
I agree.
Seeing some really nice benefits for folks that have broken down some of those obstacles to people being able to come in. And, obviously what we're missing at the moment is groups, but we're hoping to figure out how to start doing that online as well. So yeah, it's really changed the work, and but it's also helped us grow too.
Yeah, we've had the same experience. We've had to figure out how to continue our work just in a virtual world. And, like you said, some of those same hindrances with the transportation and things like that are now not an issue. Some other things have come up, but some of those things are now resolved. So like you said, I don't think we're going to ever officially go away with all virtual things, but we'll figure out how to do some type of hybrid program where we're able to eventually do face-to-face and virtual.
So. Right, because then you can bring sort of everyone in, the people who need to be in person or for whom that works better, great, and for people for whom it works better at home.
Right.
Yeah, hybrid approaches would be nice.
Yeah. One of the things that you and I mentioned when we were talking earlier is about what do you say to someone who you're concerned about? I recently did a presentation about when is it okay to say you're not okay? Well, when is it okay to ask, are you not okay? We're in a world where we have to be more communicative verbally. We're not able to see each other and see facial reactions and body language and things like that. So we have to be more intentional about what we're saying and what we're doing. So if we are concerned about someone who we suspect might be in an intimate partner violent situation, what can we do?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing you do is, say something. If you're getting that feeling, this person, you're getting this feeling that things just aren't right, ask them, say, how are you doing? I'm concerned about you. I'm noticing this, or something, just to let the other person know that you're there and that you care. They might not be ready to talk at that moment. And they might say, no, everything is fine. But later on, if they do want to talk to somebody, then they know that you noticed and you cared enough to ask. And so studies have actually shown repeatedly that women don't mind being asked the question, and it's actually kind of a relief to know that there is somebody out there, that's not, afraid of the topic or afraid to engage them around it.
Right. Are there things that people should be mindful of what not to say?
Yes, I mean, I think you definitely want to, ask somebody about how they're doing and if there's, any way that you can help. But any suggestion for what should happen really should come from either the person themselves, right, or from a professional, because, a lot of our gut reaction is to say, oh, you should leave. It's not safe, you should leave, right? And that's not, always something that a victim wants to do. It's not always something that's easily done. And it's not always safe to do that. A victim knows the person who is abusing them the best, right? And if they say, no, that's not going to be good right now, then we need to believe that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it is, it's fine to say you're worried about them. It's fine to offer assistance, but, telling somebody what they should do, including that they should leave, tends not to be very helpful and can even shut down the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. So you mentioned earlier that 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men, and 1 in 2 transgender have experienced or will experience intimate partner violence. Those are alarming numbers. Can you talk a little bit more about that and some other statistics that we might want to be aware of?
Yeah, well, I think the thing about those statistics is, they haven't changed a lot. And, in the last, 15 years or so, that I've noticed, and they're probably underrepresented.
Wow.
It's probably more than that because we're relying on what people are saying, that people coming forward, people getting, protective orders, people reporting to their doctors, reporting, right? So we're relying on that. I think there are a lot of victims, men and women, who sort of stay in the shadows, especially if they come from a disenfranchised group of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing. The other thing is that according to 2018 National Crime Victimization Survey, approximately 850,000 reported violent victimizations were by an intimate partner.
Wow.
So, and 89% of those victims were women.
Wow.
So I think that's, that's telling as well.
Mm-hmm.
In 2019, the National Network to End Domestic Violence reported that IPV organizations served approximately 77,000 victims, with 43,000 of them residing in shelters.
Wow.
So that's, that's a little more than half reside in a shelter. And that HUD annual point in time count estimates that 8% of people who are experiencing homelessness
Mm-hmm.
are experiencing that as a result of intimate partner violence. And so again, to loop back to, your comment about the disenfranchised grief, if you think about all the losses that are associated with having to be in a shelter or, experiencing homelessness, which, disenfranchises you to begin with.
Yeah.
And then, those unrecognized losses.
Because it's easy for us to say, if someone's hurting you at home, it's easy to say, well, leave, leave. But where do you go?
Right.
You're going from being in a house where you're safe. It's you've made it comfortable, even though the situation is not comfortable, but your house is comfortable. So now having to live in a shelter, those are not easy decisions for anyone to make, so.
No, and especially, with children, right? So
Absolutely.
You have to contemplate that you're going to be leaving your home, right? That you're disrupting children's lives, that they may have to change
Ooh.
schools,
Mm.
that, there's so much that goes into the decision-making about whether to leave, religious and cultural expectations, family expectations, economics. There's, plus basic safety, maybe childcare, maybe transportation. There's so many things that go into that decision that a victim has to weigh, whether you're a man or a woman. These are all really complicated and competing realities.
Yeah. We've talked a lot just over the last few months just about grief in men and how we want to try to just bring more awareness to that. So when you mentioned that 1 in 7 men, just again, reported numbers, these are not necessarily numbers, true numbers, because everything is not reported. So give us an example of what intimate partner violence would look like in a man.
I think we see more of the men we see are in same gender relationships. But that's not to say that's exclusive, for sure. But we do see that. So then again, when you're talking about being disenfranchised, right? If you're a gay man on top of it, right? Or a transgender man, right? So there's that. And then there's also all of the roles that men are supposed to play in society. Yeah. So maybe you're a heterosexual man and, your partner is abusive and controlling. And, how do you talk about that? And how do you talk about that to your other male friends, to your family? It makes that very difficult. And so we find that, when our male clients find us, they are so relieved to be able to just talk about it without judgment. And to talk about it to somebody who, understands that intimate partner violence is, can happen to anyone and that, it's not their fault. Again, it's very important because, men have even less sort of natural allies in the community to talk to.
Yeah, I'm aware of just a few, men, just colleagues or just known about different clients where, their wife or their girlfriend may try to take the kids from him, or if they're not together or not in a relationship and she won't let him see the kids, or, she may hit him or, different things like that. And as a man, he's not going to hit her back. That's just not what he's going to do. But, like you said, for a man to be able to express that to other men could seem, like you're not manly, if you allow someone to hit you and, things like that. But it's a very challenging and toxic situation for men to be in. And I can definitely see that this number is probably under, definitely see that.
Yeah, and certainly, we serve all victims of intimate partner violence. And we, but we do know it is, much, much more prevalent for women. But we definitely want the word out there that, any victim of intimate partner violence is welcome.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking your time out. Is there any final thought that you might want to leave our audience with today?
Well, I think it's just, keep your eyes open and, and really, look at the folks around you and their relationships. And, we're all in this time of sort of personal isolation, because of COVID and, the quarantines and shutdowns and, just everything that's going on in the world right now just feels really heavy. And so, we're cocooning. But, IPV can be very isolating to the victim. And so if you suspect that somebody that you know of is struggling, please reach out to them. If for nothing else, to just say, I'm concerned about you. And, if this is an issue for you, either call, the National Domestic Violence Hotline or our hotline, and somebody will be happy to talk to you and get you hooked up with the right resources and people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pia. We appreciate your time, and you're welcome to join us at any other time. We'll definitely have further conversations about similar topics in the future. So you're always welcome.
Thank you very much.
All for tuning in today, and stay tuned for our next conversations. Take care.
When multiple deaths occur in the city, it affects us all, even the children. Last year, Roberta's House served over 2,000 individuals. There are children and families in the urban communities of Baltimore that are in need of grief support. Donate to Roberta's House annual fund drive to help grieving families and children find hope again. Visit robertashouse.org or call 410-889-0001 today.